Hey guys, and welcome back for another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm Jack. I'm here with Liam and Anya.
Hello.
Hello?
And today's episode, we're going to be talking about the final episode of Life is Strange 1, titled Polarized. Okay, so after the events of the end of episode 4, where we saw Max get drugged and Chloe get shot, we wake up in the dark room, and it turns out that Jefferson's been a bit of a naughty boy, he's been a bit of a dick. He is the big bad. So before we carry on, I'll get your reactions to that, or what your reactions were at that time. Liam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had it from the preview in the last one, so I knew we would end up in this dark room, but it's just really, horrible and disgusting to see Max being the one that's tied there, right? Yeah, I was not a fan of it.
Yeah, it's the whole, like I said last time, the whole room is just very unsettling, and to actually be our playable character there. And sometimes Victoria is there, unconscious too, if you warned her. So it's just sometimes it's not only just Max either, but this guy's got 2 fucking girls that he's gonna be all naughty boy with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, we'll be revisiting this room a few times over a course of the episode, but of course, there's some things that play out. We have to use the trolley, don't we? We have to initially get out of the cufflinks that he's put us in and focus the photo. But I don't know, one thing I sort of noticed on this replay is his motivation behind what he was doing. I don't know if you guys thought it was a little bit weak or if I'm missing something, but his justification for it, he goes, I want to try and find innocence or corruption or something within an image. It was something weird like that, and I was like, what, really? So you're drugging all of these girls and killing them and burying them afterwards for that? I don't know what you guys think on that, whether that's a satisfying reason for you, or maybe you think, it's just because he's a psycho that he's just trying to justify other means. But right over to you, Anya. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like there's no good way to explain why he's doing what he's doing. Nothing's gonna be oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But, creeps are gonna be creeps, so.
I think, it's interesting because obviously he's just very artsy. He likes this chiaroscuro thing, and he's yeah, I want to, this is his style. He likes capturing girls, when they're slightly unconscious or whatever. It's interesting, though, because, obviously with Kate, he did the whole shenanigans with her and then let her go, and obviously it led her to massive psychological issues. But obviously Rachel was a one-off with Nathan overdosing her, right? So it's interesting how, although Jefferson is the bad guy, he puts them in this situation, he almost doesn't want them to die. I don't think it's Nathan that did that from an accident, but it almost escalates to the point where he has to, because he's basically a borderline serial killer at this point. So he's got to compensate that way. One thing I find really interesting as well is that he obviously picks you as the Everyday Heroes contest in the timeline where you submit a photo, so he almost wants it to be Max. He always mentions how fake Victoria is, and although it's really interesting because Victoria wants to be in your shoes, although those are not the shoes you don't want to be in your current situation. But it's almost like he's had his eye on Max from the very beginning, and he's almost relishing having her in the chair, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of icky. It's a weird fixation on her.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you touched on it there. We then change time and we submit the photo in the Everyday Heroes contest. And we see how time changes again, because the next thing we know, Max is on a plane with Principal Wells. They're going to San Francisco for some sort of art gallery thing where her photo's going to be shown. I don't think too much happens here. I know obviously you have a conversation with Wells, don't you? But did either of you have any particular comments on this section at all?
Not really, because there's not a whole lot that really happens other than just little snippets of everyone texting you wow, good job, you're doing great. And then there's a newspaper says that Jefferson and Nathan got caught and arrested. But that's pretty much all I can remember that's important.
For the flight, the only thing I have to mention is that the ginger guy in 2 rows ahead of you sucks at Candy Crush. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
I didn't even notice that.
And the third thing, the gallery, it's a fun section. You know, like, I really like revisiting locations, but it's just really nice. I think it makes it all the more sweeter when you get a new one. And obviously we're in a different state now. We're in California. We get to like actually explore a real museum, look at all these different art pieces. So I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really funny how the voice actors are clearly recycled, and you can hear like Frank's voice actor, Joyce's voice actor, even one's just straight up Chloe. But yeah, it's like really nice to see all of that. And yeah, just really cool to see your own photo on the wall, isn't it? And yeah, to be honest though, like I found it quite chilling how like it's a nice happy moment, but of course it's Life is Strange, happy moments don't last for long. And then you get that text message, don't you, where you find out that you fucked up another timeline, right?
That's it. And then of course it then prompts her to make yet another change. We ultimately end up back at the chair where we're going to see Jefferson. He's about to inject Max, give her the final dose to make sure that she is dead essentially. But then an unlikely hero in David turns up, and we get this pretty cool sequence, don't we, where we get to rewind time, or at least I had to a few times, in order to save him and have him be able to fight Jefferson. So start with you this time, mate. Any particular thoughts on this section?
Oh yeah, like I find some of the rewind puzzles, like hit and miss. Like I said, like for example, the diner one in episode 3, I thought was a little tedious, but I really enjoyed this one, having to try and like navigate David through without getting him harmed, because Jefferson will win like, I don't know, most of the fights because he has the upper hand, right? But yeah, just super interesting. I definitely failed it a few times, even on my replay where, like you get stabbed in the neck. I particularly enjoy the one where you warn David too early and he's holding the tripod, so he like hits you straight up in the face with it. But yeah, really cool as well how like it's David and Jefferson gets really confused, like how did you know it's him? But yeah, no, it's just a really cool puzzle, and yeah, it took me about maybe 6 tries until I finally learned you've got to use the water, you've got to trip him up with the cable. But it's always fun having getting to see David die in like 8 different ways before you finally beat Jefferson.
Yeah, it was nice to definitely see him like have a bit of a good side shown and helping us and everything, and definitely very tense. It's the same vibes, I think, of like the train and Chloe, where you have to just like keep going back and forth, so like this person is not constantly dying over and over again. But so it has a good mixture of being a good puzzle and also being tense, because obviously you want to get out of there. So,
but yeah, of course, ultimately we succeed, and David wins the fight. Jefferson's on the ground. You know what? I've wrote something down here. I'm surprised I've not said it earlier in this series, but it struck me a while ago, but I've been forgetting to mention it. But is it me, or does David from Life is Strange, does he look like Daniel from Little? I'm already muddling them up. Do they look alike to you? If you improved the graphics and took away the moustache, I think that they look alike a little bit. I don't know if we can, like, when we do if you edit the video, mate, put like a side by side up.
You know what? I'm looking at
take
him
away
now.
the mustache, then yeah, probably.
I'm looking at him now, and I hate David even more.
You just made this so much worse for Liam.
Genuinely, I was sat there. I was like, oh my god! It's just struck me. If you just put a red T-shirt on him and took away the moustache, it's Daniel from Little Hope. Anyway, yeah, it's a nice little tangent. Something for you to ponder on.
Liam, get those Photoshop skills going.
Yeah, that's it. You have to get on the editing there, mate. But yeah, like obviously we don't really have major, or I say we don't have major choices. We have one major choice in this episode, but we can still make choices throughout. And obviously we can see him kill Jefferson, and we also have an opportunity to tell him the truth with what happened with Chloe, or we can hide the truth. what did you guys do in this particular bit here? We'll start with you, Anya.
I told him the truth, and then I kind of ended up instantly regretting it afterwards. But like in the moment, it was nice to see that David actually like really did care about Chloe, like even despite all the turmoil and crap that they've gone through like in their relationship and everything. So for him to like react so viscerally and intensely about the fact that this guy killed Chloe and then just like shooting him dead, it's like it's satisfying, but it's also like, man, now Jefferson doesn't have to deal with any repercussions. He's just dead.
Yeah, because am I right in thinking it's by warning him about Chloe's death that prompts the kill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I told him the truth, and I did not remember this from my blind playthrough, but he just shoots Jefferson in the head, and I really didn't remember that, so I was like, okay, well, Jefferson's dead now for me. But yeah, I know what you mean about David, really interesting, because like obviously he's a really fascinating character. Obviously, you know, he's a potential suspect throughout the whole thing, but you know, at the end of the day, like the man's heart is in the right place, it's just his methods are completely all in the wrong place, right? Like he'll have the same common goal as you, it's just that he'll like terrorize a depressed girl, he'll probably put a camera in your bedroom while, you know, he's doing that. But you know, at the end of the day, his heart's in the right place. But yeah, I'm just at arm's length with David though.
Yeah. Good intentions, bad executions.
That's the one.
That's it. I know for me, I told the truth. And then obviously after seeing him do what he did is literally what Anya was saying, like Jefferson's not going to get any repercussions. So I actually then rewinded time, and you have to go through a lot of dialogue again, but you can just hit the little skip button, and I actually then hid the truth from him. And I don't know, like I feel like, you know, we've said about doing a video about like Chloe, like a deep dive looking into her character and stuff. I think David would be a dead interesting one as well. Like there's some things he comes out with, like there's real like depth given to him in this scene, like when he talks about the war, and obviously like sort of the guilt with Chloe, with like treating her badly. You've got the whole surveillance thing, the breakdown in the relationship with Joyce. You see a different side to David to the one that we've seen earlier in the game, and maybe perhaps we see things from his point of view more. So I feel like that's a potential a character that we can look at a little bit more closely in the future.
Am I right in thinking he's the character who appears in the most Life is Strange games as well?
Yes, because he's in season.
Oh yeah, he's in 2.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he returns as a hippie man, yeah.
And obviously he's in Before the Storm because it's a prequel.
Yeah, of course, so he's in 3 games, right?
Legend.
I don't know, I've not played True Colours, but if he comes in that, it's like, David, mate, fuck off.
And then, I mean, the next thing I've got written down here is that Max is driving and she can like hear a confession on her phone from Nathan.
It is, yeah. You know what, this bit I love because like I think it's the most underrated song in the game. You've got Mudflow playing, it fits it so well as you're driving through the storm in the rain. And then Nathan's there, like literally he leaves you a voicemail and, you know, he's crying. And I feel like Nathan, very troubled character, one that we loathe for most of the game. But if you're feeling sympathy for him at any point, it's at this one. Because you realise that he's been a pawn, he's like Mr. Jefferson's puppet. And you find out that he's died off screen and Jefferson went after him, you know, for, you know, being a bit of a poor student, really. But yeah, it's like you said in the last episode, Anya, he's a bit of a Joshua Washington character. He's just a lost kid who needed a bit of guidance, and, you know, with his mental health, he went about it the wrong way, and it's actually like really sad to see that, you know, Nathan's dead.
Yeah, because like there's like no way that he gets a happy ending. He's either dead or he's arrested or doesn't get the help that he needs.
I mean, of course, yeah, we know that Arcadia Bay, you know, is starting to suffer from the tornado. It's a bit of a wreck. Really nice visuals here, like when you get out of the car and you're just like wandering through and you can see bits of debris like flying everywhere. And obviously there are a couple of instances where you can save characters here, right? So for me, for example, I did save Evan, and also I saved the fisherman as well, because there's an instance where like he can't hear you when you tell him to like bugger off. Otherwise, like you can electrocute him, so you have to like wander around and then, you know, do it from the other side so that he, you know, doesn't die and whatnot. The only thing with this particular bit that I have issues with is that a lot of heavy shit's going down, right? People are dying, the town is ruined, there's a massive tornado. And maybe it's on me because I chose to speak to these characters, Frank and Joyce, when you're in the diner. But like, considering the situation they're in, it didn't feel very urgent. Like the pacing sort of like slowed way down, which completely juxtaposed with what was going on in the background. What were your like overriding thoughts on like this whole section leading up to the diner, guys? We'll start with you, Liam.
So like I managed to save all the people in my replay. You know, Evan, what I find really funny is that you tell Evan to stop taking photographs and to leave, and then you immediately can take 2 optional photos. It's like, I'm just nicking Evan's shots. Cheers for that, mate. The sadistic side of me may or may not have killed the fisherman multiple times, because I found his death pretty hilarious, I'm not gonna lie.
Jesus.
And yeah, obviously Alyssa, you know, 5th time to save her, and the trucker as well. One little detail I weirdly quite like is that the diner in the background, obviously it's got a neon light for every letter. Certain of them aren't working, and it just has die written on the diner. I thought that was quite neat.
I didn't spot that.
Yeah, you know what? Neither did I, but I'm blitzing through it now, and I'm looking at it now. So yeah, that's something I've just learnt myself.
Oh.
But I do know what you mean. When you get to the diner scene, it's proper slow. And I know it's nice to speak to Joyce again, and then you can kind of take what David said to her and kind of try and rekindle their romance, which I did, you know, so it, you know, gives them another step again, or shot. But yeah, like even the dialogues with Frank, you know, like it went on a little long, and there's like a storm outside, like the building literally blew up, which you save it with the sand puzzle like a minute ago, and you just sat there talking, like. But, you know, like, definitely probably the most tedious section of the episode, but nonetheless one, yeah, I quite liked.
Yeah, I'm pretty, like, obsessed, honestly, with the vibe of just the whole storm and, like, this, like, whole town in ruins, because, like, yeah, it sucks, but it looks really cool. And I enjoyed, like, being able to save everybody, like, even if, like, the storm does eventually kill everybody and you're just like prolonging their death, it's still nice to feel like you're doing something, you know. But I actually kind of liked the little diner segment because it's a nice little breather of all the shit that's going on outside and getting to catch up with people. And yeah, maybe they were a little too calm, but maybe sometimes denial is all you have.
So I know obviously throughout this entire series the question, is Warren toxic, has come up. a bit of fun on our part, like we're not being dead serious about it, but of course, like you could level at him that, you know, feels like he's got some sort of entitlement, some sort of possession over Max because, you know, he's done her favours, therefore she needs to do stuff for him. I don't know, like I think overall, in my gameplay I did end up hugging him. You know, I didn't ignore the guy, I didn't kiss the guy, I just straight up hugged him. And I thought, like, overall he has bailed me out in a couple of fights before. You know, there was the thing where he helped out in terms of getting into the office in the first place. There's more pros than cons, so I felt like that was the fairest way to go, and obviously I didn't really ship them, so I felt like a hug was more appropriate. But what about you guys, starting with you, Liam?
Yeah, I did the same. I hugged Warren. Yeah, he's an interesting character because we've mentioned it before. Yeah, there's a possible slightly toxic element where he kind of, you know, he saved you from Nathan in episode 1, so he's like almost like, you have to take me to, you know, I have to take you to the movies kind of thing. But, you know, like, I don't know, as I've like rediscovered this series and I've done the analysis and the edits, you know, like, he's there for you almost once an episode, right? Whether, like you say, he's helping you break into like Ray's office, whether he saves you from Nathan, he holds his end up of the bargain, and he's like a guardian, you know. It's really good. So yeah, like I thought a hug was the right thing to do because I also just didn't ship them, and I think it's the classic example of just because someone likes you romantically, you don't have to reciprocate the feelings. But at the end of the day, like we saw at the, you know, before you go into the Vortex Club pie in episode 4, you know, he sees you walk off with Chloe, and you know, he just, you know, maybe he's a little hurt about it, but he doesn't do anything toxic. He just sort of leaves, you know, with a bit of pain, like, you know, a trooper, to be honest. So I respect him for that one. I felt leaving him would have been too disrespectful though. Like the man's done a lot, so I didn't want to do that. But how about yourself, Anya?
Yep, pretty much the same thing. Because, he definitely has a handful of, quote unquote nice guy moments that kind of turned me away from him a lot. But he is still a pretty good friend to us. So wasn't gonna smooch him. Wasn't gonna just leave him hanging. So he gets a hug. He's been a pretty decent guy. For the most part.
And of course, we then sort of use him once again because he took a photo earlier on that we could focus in on and go back to that scene just outside the Vortex party where we're with Chloe. And we tell her everything, don't we? We tell her how the future's going to pan out if we go into that party. She's ultimately going to get shot, that Nathan was a pawn in Jefferson's games, etc. And you have to sort of try and convince her, essentially. And then before we know it, we're back outside the lighthouse in the storm. We passed out and Chloe's having to help us up and try to keep us stable.
I really like this section because obviously you recap on and you admit on everything, how you went back in the past and saw William. And if we think back to this whole timeline where the photo was taken, Chloe was in an absolute mission mode. She just wanted to find Nathan, go through at the party. She's just discovered Rachel's body. She didn't care about the double eclipse or the double moon that was happening. So she's on a mission mode. And for you to just unload your heart like that, because it must be a weird concept if one of you can time travel and one of you could be gone a month and literally go back to the same timeline where someone's just with you. So to Chloe, I think it speaks volumes of how she has growth. I know she's a controversial character, but I would say that, we mentioned in the last episode how she shows maturity when she takes you to the hospital to see Kate. I think this is another level of that. I think the way that she listens to you, she's like, okay, yeah, I'm hearing you. I understand Nathan's not the killer, Jefferson is. I just wanted to praise Chloe at this scene, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, because she keeps her cool surprisingly well. I didn't even think about that, just having somebody who's right there next to you, just living through all this stuff and then just coming back hey, by the way, here's all this information that I have. But I will give myself a little shout out because I felt really proud of myself because I remembered when the last episode ended, when Max and Warren took the photo and then I started this one, I'm just we're gonna use it. We're gonna have to use it to get back to that night and save her. And I got really excited about it.
So we then once again return to Jefferson's classroom and it's not long before shit really starts to go down. We see a load of birds hit the window, and then I think we move on to this sequence where I think really towards the end of this episode, I think that there are some really creative things that Don't Nod did here that I thought were actually really good, that sort of were all encompassing of the characters and the locations that we saw throughout Life is Strange. But we have this corridor puzzle, don't we, where we're essentially walking down the girls' dormitory, and each time we go through a door we start at the same door. We've seen it in other games before, and we obviously the characters change as well. I thought that was really clever. We play as Victoria at one point. I think we see Kate at one point, or at least I did in my playthrough. I don't know if you guys did, but I saw Kate go through her door and then fall. Is that something that resonates with you both? Do you have that in your gameplay or not? Obviously she died in mine.
We would have, yeah, but the dialogue would have changed. So for us, she was like, why didn't you let me jump? While I imagine for you, she would have said, why did you let me die?
Oh right, see, I didn't know that. What, so did she still jump in your...
Yeah.
So she still jumped, but the dialogue's a bit different.
Yeah, because obviously a big part of this is preying in on Max's insecurities. So, she'll see, in the future, Chloe making out with Victoria or posing for Jefferson, kissing Warren. And then it's just, you'll have a section where Kate's like, yeah, you should have let me jump. I wanted to die. So either way, Max will get tormented. But it's really interesting to see the variations there. I just wanted to talk about the puzzle things earlier on when you're back in the classroom. Obviously every episode I mention at this game is a nod to Twin Peaks. This whole sort of section is ripped right out of Twin Peaks' page because the final episode of season 2 has all these weird sections in a place called the White Lodge where all the characters would talk backwards, they would walk backwards, everything would be in reverse. And I just really love how you have the whole intro section again where Sid matters to all of you's played in backwards for one of the optional photos. You've got to take it backwards, so you've got to actually open your diary where you put the photo, and then it like you take the photo in reverse. I thought the whole thing was really like neat and cool, and it was just like such a really eerie vibe, and it just perfectly captured like David Lynch's like director style. So yeah, no, I just thought this was really neat.
Yeah, and I mean, shortly after this, we have like this other, what I'd call like a stealth sequence, really, whereby we're as Max, and you're going back through the locations of all these games. I think the one that springs to mind straight away is where we are in the lockers, and we've got Jefferson, Wells, Warren, they're all walking around with flashlights. And don't get me wrong, conceptually, I really like this idea, and I think the execution of it was kind of good, but I did find that I got frustrated at times because, you know, when you can obviously rewind time, there was sometimes I was getting stuck. So, like, as soon as they put the flashlight on you, they catch you, and then you ultimately have to rewind time. But because you can't necessarily see how far back you want to go, properly anyway, I'd like edge 2 inches forward, and then like the light would be on me again. And I'd be like stuck in that loop so many times. So like, was that the same for you, or you know, did you get through this like a breeze, and I'm just like being a bit of a prat?
Yeah, so I struggled a little bit with that as well, because it's like definitely freaks you out. It's very like what your nightmares would be like. So I think it did a good job of kind of relaying that and making it be like, this is a hellscape, this is the worst thing that Max could ever want to go through. Not want to, but like that she could be going through, like with all the corridors and all of the insecurities. You've got people sending you text messages throughout this whole thing, like just calling you names and putting you down. Even fucking Pompidou is like, bitch, don't mess with Frank or me, you got a snack. It's probably the one little thing that made me chuckle throughout this whole thing, but it stressed me out because I'm not good at waiting and seeing how far things away are. Like, you know, like you turn 2 inches and there's a flashlight on you. Like, it's cool for the first time, but it's not something that I would want to ever replay through.
I remember for me, like when I first played it, I really kind of bought into the horror element, and it was pretty creepy with like trying to avoid the flashlights and, you know, having them kind of yell stuff. Like, it's even really freaky with like the Blackwell statue that's like turning with like the spotlight. That's pretty freaky. But I think when it, you know, I played it later, I kind of just stopped and thought to myself, like, hang on, I'm like, I can rewind time. I can't die here. So like you can literally just get away through running at the people and just rewinding time till they like change their like directions, and you can go for it pretty ballsily, which I found funny. I found it really freaky if you look at the little Easter egg of like Warren's locker, where he's got like a Max obsession with like, you know, photos all in his locker and like a little Max doll. I thought that was really creepy. And then you've got like the section as well where you've got to collect bottles, and I was like, oh, not this again. The amount of time, I literally, same story, I found 4 bottles and I was like rinsing around trying to find the 5th one. I was like, why is it always the final bottle I get stuck on, and it sucked so much.
Bottle PTSD.
Bottle PTSD.
Oh, fuck that, I went past them. I was like, there's no way I'm looking for these bottles again. I was like,
oh wait, was it optional?
I think it was, mate, because as soon as I saw the bottles, I was like, no, I'm just going to walk on through. And nothing, you know, it didn't pull me back or anything.
Oh, yeah, you have
That's
to get
a power
a
move.
photo. Yeah, like, I think you get an optional photo out of it, but I probably would have missed it if I knew that.
Just suffered for nothing.
Yeah. One bit I found funny is, like, you know, they all have their various dialogues, and one of Frank's ones is, like, want to buy drugs? So I just looked at him in the face, was like, no, I do not, as he aimed the flashlight on me.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, we then have this scene where, you know, there's several scenes that play out here, whether it's when you're playing as Max and you're looking back at your younger self, and that whole scene play out with William and Chloe. I also thought was quite a chilling one when you're walking through the diner and everyone's judging you. I really like that. We ultimately end up back with Chloe at the lighthouse, where we make our one and only choice in this episode, quite a defining one as well. And I think, honestly, like, again, this is perhaps where Chloe redeems herself. I think she starts to realise, like, you know, how much Max is changing to simply keep her alive, and she does give this very compelling speech as to why, you know, she should ultimately die. But I mean, guys, let's just get straight to it. Did you sacrifice Chloe or did you sacrifice Arcadia Bay? We'll start with you, Anya.
So I was here for like a good amount of minutes just thinking about it, because she does raise a good argument for it. It's like, you know, all of this stuff has started like with me dying pretty much, and then I've just kept dying. And it's kind of like the last episode where she's finally making a choice to just let that happen. But, and like, obviously you don't want your whole town to be destroyed. You don't want all these innocent people to die. But then at the same time, I'm sitting there like, I'm gay and I really like Chloe. But also, like, if I just let her die, then like all of these episodes have just been kind of for nothing, because if we're just going to go right back to the start. So I was here for a minute, but then I ended up saving Chloe just because I liked her that much. But then I like watched the ending where you saved the town, and I think I kind of like that one better, just because it does feel more wrapped up and you've saved a lot more people, and it's nice to see, like, it gives you those like photo changes again, like of like her funeral and everything, and even like Frank is there like in the back, and it's tough, but I don't know. I ended up saving Chloe though for the first time around.
I sacrificed Chloe. It felt like I say, there's so many instances in this game where she could die. The universe clearly had a plan for her. You know, she was, you know, she had to die. If it was a different timeline, you know, we saw her in a wheelchair. It seemed like the universe wanted to, like, you know, just strike Chloe down with one thing or another. And it's just, I don't know, like, there's a nice little note to end on. Of course, you then go back to that scene. You see, well, you see her get shot clearly, and Max is round the corner, very distraught. Then you see the blue butterfly, and if I'm doing parallels again, you know, you could say it's butterfly effect, wink. And yeah, like, obviously, like as Anya said, like, very sad the way it plays out, but it wouldn't be justified in order to save her and sacrifice everybody else, in my opinion. So yeah, I thought I'd go with her.
Oh, interesting. So one for Chloe, one for Arcadia Bay. Damn. I mean, so for myself, it's interesting because, like, when you go through that bit, the cafe where everyone's a freeze frame and you're speaking to the Max double, and then Chloe comes in to defend you, I think at this point it really tries to tip you into maybe picking Chloe. And more so than that, it's that museum sort of scene where you're walking through and you're reliving the game with the key moments of Max and Chloe. And I thought this was shot excellently. It's one of my favourite bits of the game, where it starts off with you seeing each other in the car reuniting, and it has all the bits of, like, when she gives you the camera, whether it's you swimming in the pool. Yeah, there's just all the different Chloe and Max moments, and it's just a nice way to kind of relive the game, and you know you're coming to the end, you know where the choice is going, and it's such a heartbreaking one. Now, 18-year-old me picked a different choice to 27-year-old me. So basically, when I first played it, I just was like, yeah, no, I like Chloe too much. I can't do it. So I saved Chloe. And yeah, like, we'll talk more about the two endings later. But now that I'm myself, yeah, you put it perfectly, Jack. The universe clearly had a plan to kill Chloe. I reckon if you saved Chloe, the universe probably would have killed her off, like, later on, like after you drive off into the sunset anyway. It's like Final Destination style of hunting her down. She's clearly not meant to live, as sad as that is. But yeah, like, now that I've grown older, I just sort of realised, yeah, you can't sacrifice a whole town. It's like one life versus thousands, right? And yeah, so it sucks because, like you say, you've got to, like, go back in time, rip the photo, the first moment where, you know, Nathan and Chloe are in the bathroom. You have to relive it and just not do anything. You've just got to sit and cry and witness it. And to me, that is just absolutely brutal.
So obviously that concludes our Life is Strange series. I mean, before we end, guys, did we want to have any sort of final remarks, you know, obviously revisiting this game, has your appreciation grown for it? Has it sort of dwindled in some ways?
I think I love it more again, because like there's times where I'll go through phases of like things that I like, and then it'll come up again. I'm like, oh, I remember why I liked you so much. So it's nice to go back through this because I hadn't really thought about it in a while. Last time probably was when True Colors came out, and then it just kind of left my head again for a little bit. But I don't know, I feel like I kind of love it more and more every time, seeing how well like certain scenes still hold up and like still pack a punch no matter how many times that you've seen it or gone through it.
For myself, yeah, like I still love this game. I think, you know, big part of these games that we cover, whether it's Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Life is Strange, nothing is going to beat your blind playthrough where you're first experiencing it and you don't know where the choices lead, so you actually have to live with your consequences, and it's your real choices that you would do first time round. But you know, like, I thought going back into this game that my enthusiasm might have dwindled. I might have found a lot of sections tedious, but I really didn't. It was such a pleasure to replay this whole game and even to just sit with you guys and talk about it. So yeah, no, I've just really cherished this game, and I think I'm going to remember it, you know, to the day that I die, to be honest, as one of my favourite games.
Yeah, I've got to echo the same. Like, I think that it's certainly grown for me, like in terms of like appreciation and stuff, because yeah, like, I think it's probably helped because I played Life is Strange 2 shortly beforehand. I didn't really have a good time with that. So I was naturally a little bit sceptical. Maybe sort of my estimations were a little bit lower. Going back to this one, I was thinking, oh, you know, a few years have passed. Maybe it won't be as good as what I remember. But no, the exact opposite. I think some of the writing's great. The characters, the world, the whole mystery. Obviously, you know, we'll cover sort of like the choices and how that final choice does impact all of the other ones throughout the game in another video. But yeah, I think it's a solid game, and I've enjoyed revisiting it.
Yeah, so join us next weekend where the three of us will be doing a bonus video analysing the two endings, guys.
Cool, that's all from me, so we'll leave it there. Thank you for everyone who's been listening to this series, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.
Bye guys, see you soon.
Bye.